Hi guys, I'm Mrs. Momenteller and I am one of the English 2 teachers. Today I am going to talk to you a little bit about vocabulary and tone. We'll look at some examples and we'll talk about how you can use this in your own writing and also when you're analyzing articles in the future, how you can use different word choice to analyze tone. All right, so let's start by talking about words, why words matter. So the word connotation and denotation are probably words you've heard before, but maybe you don't know the exact definition. We're going to start by defining them. Connotation is the unspoken hidden meaning that gives a word more emotional impact, whereas denotation is the exact literal meaning of a word. So when we start talking about vocabulary and we start talking about word choice, we need to look at both of these different definitions when we're talking about those words. Is it the exact literal meaning of a word, or is it the given word or the given meaning that we think of when we hear that word? So I think we do this subconsciously. We don't even know that we're doing it in our minds with a lot of different words. This is how slang is generally formed, where the literal meaning of a word is not what we use it as or take it away as when we are using those slang words. So let's look at some examples. Understanding the art of using connotation gives writers a persuasive edge. So when we use those words that have a different connotation, we can sway our readers to think different things about our characters, or especially people who write for journals and the news do this, where they're trying to sway your opinion with their word choice. So here's why word choice matters, okay? Let's look at this sentence. The family sat together in front of a warm fire. Well, what's the actual definition of the word warm? The literal definition is nearly hot. It's a temperature, right? It's not cold, it's not hot, it's warm, it's in the middle. But when we picture a family sitting together in front of a warm fire, our minds probably don't go to, oh, the family is sitting in front of a nearly hot fire. Our minds are probably going to go to something like this. Comforting, friendly. It's a mood or a tone, right? The family, this is a nice image in our mind, a family that's happy together, sitting together, enjoying a nice night outside in front of a fire that's keeping them warm, maybe in a cooler temperature in the fall. Okay, so this is the connotation we're assigning to this word. In our minds, we are creating a new definition for warm to mean comforting and friendly, whereas the literal meaning is a temperature. Okay, so let's talk about a couple different examples here. It says, how does the picture in your mind change when you use different words? So let's talk about a couple different connotations with this word. Scary is the family sat together in front of an uncontrolled fire. Okay, when we hear the word uncontrolled in relation to this sentence, that might make us think of a scary fire that's wild, that's huge, the family doesn't know what to do. The family sat together in front of a blazing fire, same thing. Blazing is big, it's uncontrolled, it's scary. Different from warm. We're going to have a different feeling in our mind or a different picture in our mind when we hear the word blazing or uncontrolled. So let's talk about an unpleasant feeling. The family sat together in front of a smoky fire, right? No one wants to sit in front of a smoky fire where, the wind is blowing in your direction. So that smoke is just getting in your eyes and your hair smells like smoke. That's an unpleasant picture. A lot different from the family sitting in front of a warm fire together. And then we have a sad feeling. The family sat together in front of a dwindling fire, a fire that's going out. This paints us maybe a more sad image in our mind. So we have the same sentence here 4 different times, all painting a different picture in our mind just by replacing the word that describes the fire. Okay? This is why words matter. This is why the adjectives we use to describe things matter in our writing. And it's something to pay attention to when we're looking at articles to see the feeling the author wants us to get from reading that sentence. In the following examples, notice how synonyms have slightly different meanings, revealing a variety of connotations. So our sentence here is, Mary knows the answer to questions no one else can answer. Let's describe Mary. Mary is informed. She knows the answers to questions no one else can answer. Mary is confident. Or Mary is conceited. 3 different words describing Mary in this question here, or in this statement here. But as you can see, one has a positive connotation, one has a negative connotation, and one has a more neutral connotation. Mary is confident is positive. People want to be confident. Confidence is seen as a strength. Whereas conceited is seen as a negative. You do not want to be conceited. A person who is conceited is all about themselves. They think they're good at everything. You can go from confident to conceited pretty quickly. Mary is informed as neutral. There's no tone there. It's just Mary knows the answers. There's no positive. There's no negative. So now let's talk about vocabulary paired with tone. We've talked a lot about connotation. We've talked about how word choice matters. Now let's talk about how that word choice can create a tone. So we're going to start by looking at the word choice in an article or in a sentence. We're going to determine what emotions those words represent. And then we'll define our tone. So let's look at this sentence here. The cook tossed the basket of soggy fries under the warming lamp. Here's our soggy fries. They don't look very good, right? So if we're going to try to determine the tone of this sentence, let's first start by looking at our word choice. We have cook, we have tossed, we have soggy. These are the words I picked out that were descriptors in our last sentence that made me think this sentence might not be positive, right? Cooked, tossed, soggy. The emotion that I'm feeling when I look at these words is maybe the person doesn't care, maybe the cook doesn't care, maybe the cook is lazy, and it kind of paints a gross image in my mind. So then the tone word that I pull from that is unconcerned. Okay, it doesn't seem like the person who is doing the action in this sentence really cares. So now let's look at this other sentence that is the same idea, but the word choice is different. The chef prepared the basket of crispy fries moments before the waitress whisked them away to the hungry customer. Here we changed a couple different words, right? We have chef instead of cook, a more positive connotation in our mind. A chef is more prestigious than just a cook. Prepared versus tossed. Prepared is a more positive word. Tossed is unconcerned or lazy, or maybe you don't really care. It's tossed aside. Prepared is someone who takes their job seriously or cares about their job. The basket of crispy versus soggy, right? These fries look a little bit more appetizing than the first ones that we looked at. And then the difference between, we didn't talk about this in our chart, but the fries sitting under the warming lamp versus the fries being taken moments after they're made, right? That's a more positive connotation. I don't know about you, but I don't want my food sitting under a warming lamp. I want it brought out to me right when it is done being cooked and prepared for me. Okay, so this is a much more positive connotation than our original sentence. So we're going to do an example here in a second, talking about how the word choice you use can change depending on what your purpose is. What do you want to do? In a lesson next week, Mr. Lyle is going to talk to you about informative writing versus persuasive writing and how that is different if you're trying to get people to just learn information versus if you want people to be, their opinions to actually change. So the purpose matters. Who our audience is definitely matters in our word choice. I'm sure you guys don't speak to your teachers the same way you speak to your friends, the same way you speak to your parents. So who you are speaking to or who the article is meant for matters. And in our example here in a second, we're going to talk a lot about audience. And then last, words determine tone. So we can pull out those specific words in a sentence and in an article, in a speech. and we can determine the emotion behind the person writing that article or saying that speech or giving that speech. All right, if you guys have more questions on vocabulary and tone, reach out to your teacher. Otherwise, continue on to the next example, where we'll be breaking down 2 different articles and looking at purpose, audience, and tone with that.